right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. Every once in a while, we have a book with information in it that I just can't wait to learn more about. And this one fascinates me. It is titled, the title alone fascinates me, 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. It is written by our guest, Steve Siebold. He is a former professional athlete who competed on the national junior tennis circuit. He was drafted by Yugoslavia to compete on the European Professional Club Tour. He is a psychological performance coach to elite athletes, and I'm sure that the mental toughness secrets he's going to share with us probably are applicable to people like radio hosts and everybody else, not just athletes. Let's find out about this. I'm very curious about this. Good morning, Steve Siebold, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, good morning, Larry. No, perfect pronunciation.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm based in Atlanta.
Oh, in Atlanta. How's the weather in Atlanta today?
It's beautiful, sunny day.
Oh, good. The 177 number. I like that. You must have just run out of ideas because usually authors have like a 99 or 100 or 101. You went to 177.
Yeah, I just ended up at 177. No real strategy behind it.
So I'm kind of in the dark because we don't have the book, but I was wondering something in talk radio, where the landscape of this profession is usually opinionated. Okay. When I first started doing this particular show, I remember feeling very torn because you'd have some listeners who really, truly disagreed passionately. It made me feel bad. And it was like, oh, my gosh, am I that stupid? How could I have this opinion and they have that opinion? Maybe I'm the one who's wrong. I would feel so bad. But and then, the other people who had been in this business longer would say, don't worry, you'll get tough skin after a while. And, they were right. I don't know if that's part of what you're talking about or not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it happens. I think I get asked all the time, how do you make people mentally tough by, speaking to them in giving a speech or having them read a book or go to a seminar. And of course, the truth is, just as you just given an example of, you don't get it that way. You get it by being in the fight, by absorbing criticism and, adversity.
Yeah. And so that means it's never a quick thing. It's got to be an acquired thing, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely, it takes time, and the reason I wrote the book and do the work that I do is just to prepare people for the storm, for the adversity that they're going to face, so they can become mentally tough.
Well, and I like what you just said there because that's exactly right. If at this point in my career, if I'm talking to somebody new to this, and they hear me say, "Don't worry, that will change," then they know, oh, okay, so you've been down this road before, and I should just lighten up on myself. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Exactly. It takes time to get used to it, especially as the criticism and open public criticism, especially, can be a little bit. You can really be shocked in the beginning, and then after a while, it's commonplace.
Now, how does that apply to sports? Because in the world of sports, you either make a touchdown or you don't. You know what I mean? Like in radio with opinions, you could be wrong or right or it is a matter of opinion. But there's no opinion when it comes to scoring in tennis. I mean, you either get the point or you don't, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I've taught athletes for years is you've got to become your own best friend. Whether you're on a team like football, a team sport like football, or an individual sport like tennis or golf, you've got to really make peace with yourself. Whether you're up or you're just made the worst mistake in the history of the sport, you've got to be able to balance it within yourself.
And you yourself had won a number of titles, a number of tournaments, and you were an up-and-coming. You even represented the United States in competition.
Yeah, a long time ago. Another lifetime ago I did, as a junior player. I was a pretty strong junior player, not a very good pro player, but my talent only could take me to about the top 500 in the world. But I learned a lot of lessons because tennis is such a mental game.
And that must have been very devastating for you when you had to redirect your career.
It was. When you grow up as a child prodigy, that's all you know. That whole world is the pressure to win, And, I started doing that when I was 7 years old. And it's a whole different world. It's a privileged world, but you don't know that when you're 7.
Wow.
Is there a fine line between mental toughness and stubbornness?
I think the stubbornness probably has some part of it. Yeah, absolutely. I think a refusal to allow other people or situations or wins or losses to impact you at a very deep level. You learn to block it from going any deeper than it needs to go.
Oh, okay. Because I can imagine if I was wrong. Let's say we're driving someplace and I'm just ignoring my GPS, and I'm wrong. I mean, I could be stubborn and say, you're the one who's wrong. I don't know, and then of course I'll find out that I have to make a U-turn eventually. That's kind of a stupid example, I guess. But you know what? In the notes, I wanted to ask you this. In the notes, and I'm guessing the book was written before this Larry Nassar story. But in the notes, it does say you wanted to talk about the Larry Nassar story, the doctor who abused all those girls for 20 years.
Yeah, I wrote an op-ed about it last night, actually, and it's going out today. And I just think that as a coach, as someone that worked with great athletes, I've worked with dozens and dozens of Olympic athletes. It's outrageous to me that this guy's going to prison for the rest of his life, but he's actually the smallest bit of this because he's one person. I mean, I want to know why Michigan State is not being held more accountable, and the U.S. Olympic Committee is not being held more accountable. Of course, USA Gymnastics as well. This needs to go all the way to the end, really, to really sanction all these bodies for what happened, because they're responsible for protecting children. When you're a coach and you're a governing body, that's your number one job, and they all failed.
The disturbing part of this story is that the girls were not being silent. They were telling. And that part, like these actresses you're hearing about, they say, well, I didn't say anything because of this, that, and the other thing. But these girls, they were not being silent. They were talking, and yet nobody was listening. That's the horror story, too.
I totally agree. And it was going on for 20 years, Larry. I mean, these little girls were coming out and saying, they're little kids. They don't know the difference. I mean, no one. He was visiting them. He treated them in their dorm rooms and in their hotel rooms.
Wow.
With no third party. And these are little girls. I mean, and they're complaining, and everyone's ignoring them. And they're having, the coach of the team is having the girls apologize to the doctor for maligning his reputation or threatening to.
Yeah, you're right. There are even the judge who sentenced him agrees with what you're saying. That this goes beyond what her courtroom can do, because she's only got one guy she can serve justice to, but there are other people who need to be answering to this.
Yeah, heads really need to roll. I mean, this is if it was 20 months, you could see where it's this guy's a sneaky guy and he was getting away with it, and the kids didn't know any different, maybe, or most of them didn't know any different. But we're talking about 20 years, Larry. 20 years of ignoring. And I think most people don't really understand, when you represent the United States of America, the pressure, the power that these coaches and the governing body has over you is they let you know. I mean, I heard this as a little kid multiple times, that we can replace you so fast, you'll make your head spin. So you need to do exactly what we tell you to do, or you won't be representing the United States of America. It's a big power play.
How did you adjust then when you were a little child, since you heard that too?
What you did is you complied. You did. That's what I did, and that's what all the kids that I played with did. On the team for when we represented the U.S., we just complied. We did exactly what the coaches told us, and we were terrified. I mean, we just because we knew they were right. They could replace us. There's always someone dying to represent. I mean, you beat out thousands of kids to be on that team. And the backups are from here to Tucson, as they used to tell us,
So complying though, if it means performing sexual favors or whatever this guy was doing, I mean that is crazy. So there's complying and then there's complying, right? I mean, there's two types of complying.
Absolutely, yeah. Luckily, tennis is a very, very clean sport. I mean, like golf, And I think gymnastics probably is too. Certainly with the athletes, but I think that what the real play here, this is all about power, and they exert it over you. And the girls are even coming out and saying, they said it in the courtroom last week and this week as well, that the power they have, you just were terrified to say anything, And I know exactly what that's like. I mean, because they do run that power. They let you know that you're nobody, that they can replace you, and you better do what you're told. Otherwise, you're off the team.
So does one of the mental toughness secrets include standing up to authority?
Absolutely. Yeah. Questioning everything, questioning the leadership, especially when there's a massive amount of power being exerted by a governing body or a person or a coach.
So
Definitely.
do you think we need to be teaching this is this something that we should be teaching all young people, whether they're athletes or musicians or anything where somebody's going to be overseeing them, just overseeing them, period?
Absolutely. I do. I think we ought to be teaching kids in school that the world is not run on love. Unfortunately, it's run on money and power. And they need to know that people are corrupted by money and sometimes corrupted by money and power, and they need to sleep with one eye open. And it's sad to say that, but that's the way the world works. And we don't teach our kids that, I don't think.
But and there's another element to this too, and I'd love to hear your comments on this, is that the parents who entrusted their daughters to this guy's care, were they just being foolish? Were they being negligent? Were they being too trusting? What is your thought on that?
Well, you got to feel for the parents. You can imagine the guilt they are going to live with for the rest of their lives. I mean, you can't imagine. But I will tell you this, that that it's the same thing with the parents, that they feel the power that comes from these committees and these coaches that basically says, you need to shut up and let us handle your kid. And they a lot of times they don't want you talking to your parents, and they want you talking to outside people because they want total control of your body and your mind. And the parents don't want to ruin the kid's dream because they can be replaced. That it really is true. There are a lot of people that can bet that you just barely are beating someone out, probably just barely beating 200 people out that are that good. And the parents don't want to ruin it for the kids, so they comply just as the athletes do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's sad.
And the ones who made the girls feel that they were somehow responsible. This happened where they felt like, okay, you're telling me the truth, but you must have caused it. That is horrible. Can I tell you a real personal story? My sister, who is no longer with us, was younger than me, 7 years younger than me. She died way too young. She lived a very bad, hard life, and nobody knew what the heck happened, why. She brought up in the same family as her 4 brothers. I'm one of them. And later on in life, she revealed that when she was 11 years old, she was raped by a cousin. And the cousin told her he would kill all of us if she had told anybody. And then later on, when she did finally tell us, she was already getting close to 40 probably, before she told anybody. At my cousin's mother's deathbed, my aunt, in other words, she said to my sister, "I forgive you." In other words, blaming my sister for it.
Oh.
My sister said that. I said, just ignore that. Just ignore that. It's from a dying woman who doesn't want to believe that her son ever did anything wrong. That's what that was from. So I can imagine these girls for 20 years probably had the same type of thing.
Oh, sure. It's a terrible, terrible story. And I think part of it is that this guy's going to jail and he's done. Okay, great. But, that is what it is. But these little girls are going to be living with this till the day they die. These kinds of traumas don't go away because this guy's locked up. They're going to be thinking about this until they draw their last breath. And some of them are going to be should be on a suicide watch for many, many years because these things just don't die easy with athletes.
I want to ask you, Steve. I want to ask you a question. Did you hear the story after Carrie Fisher passed away? There was a story, like around the time Carrie Fisher died, this whole Me Too movement started, and there was a story from one actress who said she was being manipulated and sexual things and stuff was happening, and Carrie Fisher wrote him a letter, a really strong letter, and I can't remember what it said, but the point was the toughness that you're writing about in your book. In this circumstance, this sexual abuse circumstance, Carrie Fisher was demonstrating it, and I guess the guy left the girl alone because Carrie Fisher had some kind of power herself. Mm-hmm. She was from Star Wars. So.
Yeah, right.
yeah, there you go.
But
wow.
I'm wondering if the toughness secrets that you have in the book, if embraced by young athletes who happen to be female, will be able to, I don't know, fight back and stop this stuff. Not that it's their fault or their responsibility, but just to I don't know, stop it before it starts, or tell on the guy right away, or blow a whistle right away, or something.
Well, I'll bet you, and I don't know these Olympic gymnasts on a personal level at all, but I can imagine they are incredibly mentally tough. And athletes at that level, by the time they've gotten there, now this is in context. Of course, the context of their sport, they're tough. But again, they could be as tough as anyone, and not if you're 14 years old and you don't know a guy's supposed to be putting his fingers inside your body during an examination for your leg, you don't know.
Yeah,
so I mean, this is just a complete abuse. What I want to know, Larry, is why wasn't a third party in that room when this guy was doing these things?
Absolutely.
Well, how could they for 20 years they overlooked it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Well, your book is called, I want to make sure we're fair to the book, 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. Our guest is Steve Siebold. He's up in Atlanta. I wanted to read you, and you've probably read it already, I don't know, a comment from one of the people who reviewed the book. The book has been out, for 8 years already or so? Is that right?
Yeah, a long time. Yeah, 10, 12 years now, I think.
Okay,
yeah,
so you've had a lot of feedback. And this is what one of your reviewers writes. 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class by Steve Siebold is a very informative and insightful book. I, too, only wish that I would have known about this book sooner, but at least I know now. The following are some passages of the book. And then he goes on to give you some ideas. So I wanted you to kind of do that instead of me reading his. What are people telling you they're getting from the book that they've embraced, that have helped them in their lives or in their chosen career or sport?
Yeah.
Well, most of the feedback we get is about the book is really about psychological tools that people can use in adverse situations and pressure situations at work or home or sport or anything. Like, I'll give you an example. It's easier to probably do that. There's a psychological tool known as compartmentalization. Big word, but simple concept in that if you become like Tiger Woods was an example of this. When Tiger Woods had his whole personal problem, any psychologist worth their salt would tell you that he was experiencing emotional overwhelm, and he was unable to compartmentalize his personal problems when he played golf. And he still really hasn't ever come back from it because it's something he was probably never taught to do in context of his personal life. He obviously was great at it in golf, but he just could not carry it over into his from his personal life. So that's a tool, and then the book is full of those kinds of tools to help people navigate adversity.
How about the people that when they seem to have the whole world and they're young, they're pretty, they're handsome, and they have people around them all the time, and then as they grow older, their outside physical attractiveness wanes, and then that sort of affects their personality, and then these people aren't around anymore. How do you tell them that they have to be beautiful inside, not just on the outside?
Well, one of the things we deal with that is it's a tool called concept of objective reality. So the way we talk about it is that we try to. It's one of the main thrusts of the book. It's the first chapter of the book. Is we want people, if you're going to be mentally tough, you've got to see the world as it really is, your place in the world as it really is, as opposed to the way we wish things were. I mean, America's kind of an interesting country. We kind of live in a bubble, I think, here. When you travel a lot, as you guys probably have as well, you see that we live in sort of a fantasy world of wishful thinking because we can afford it because we're a very rich country. And so we can sort of buy away our delusions as they were.
Yeah,
and so we try to say, wake up and see things the way they are.
Yeah,
and people are going to judge you, and people are going to criticize you when you lose, even though they wouldn't have the guts to take the risks you did in your sport or in your life or whatever. They're still going to criticize you. That's just the way it works. So once they get grounded in objective reality, they start to see things more clearly, and it takes the pressure off.
And I think that's absolutely true in every business. I mean, in this business, the one thing you have to see clearly is that you are not a star. If you think you are because you're on a microphone, well, then that's going to be the end of you. You have to realize that you're doing a job, you're providing a service, and ego sometimes is the biggest killer of anybody in this world. I don't know if it applies to sports, but in this world it does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have a chapter in the book called Ego versus Spirit. And it's not spirit in the religious context, but spirit in terms of operating from your heart as opposed to from this giant ego that it's so easy to get when you experience any level of success, or if you're in a flashy business like you guys are, and I'm kind of in a flashy business as well. And you can start thinking you're anything but a vendor when really that's all we are as vendors. We just happen to be in a flashy business, and it makes us look like we're stars.
And the world-class phrase, that pertains to everybody, not just a select few.
Exactly. Yeah, we call it world-class thinking. So we kind of compare what we call middle-class thinking. It doesn't have anything to do with socioeconomics, just a borrowed term. But middle-class thinking is sort of the way the average person thinks as we define it, and then world-class thinking is the way the super achievers think. And we sort of make the comparisons between the two. And middle-class thinking really has its roots in fear and scarcity, and world-class thinking has its roots in love and abundance. And so we try to move people toward that area.
I'm so positive. I love that.
What is your thinking, Steve, on the whole participation trophy thing? And that mostly applies to very young children, where you don't have award ceremonies for young children because it's going to make the other kids who don't win feel bad. What do you feel about that?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's been overplayed a lot. I know that the contest, because I worked with athletes for so many years. It's great that you reward them for execution, even if they don't win. You reward them for sportsmanship and all those great things. So I know they had the right idea in mind when they were doing it. They probably went too far in saying that everyone gets a trophy. Probably everyone should be recognized for their contributions and for their efforts, especially little kids who need to be taught these principles.
Yeah.
But maybe they probably went a little too far. But I think they've been beat up a lot, and I think their intentions were probably pretty good.
Yeah, probably. And I think toughness being taught is there's no problem teaching toughness as early as possible.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and that's the thing, that not to go too far back to the Larry Nassar thing, but I think that's why I want these people to resign. And the board of trustees at Michigan State, they should be gone. But even Luana Simon, who is a former president of Michigan State, who resigned yesterday, she resigned, but she didn't take responsibility. And the reason I'm going back to this is because I think all these kids are watching this. They're seeing how we run the world. And when a president of a university, on her watch for 20 years, her kids are being abused, and she's not seeing it. She just ignores it, or doesn't see it, or is not paying attention enough. She needs to go, and so does her board of trustees that manage her. And because the kids are watching us. And what do we teach? She won't even take responsibility for this happening on her watch. What kind of leader is she?
Really good point. Very strong point, too, Steve. Let's see, we're almost out of time. We got about 2 minutes left. Let's make sure we give people some information so they can look you up or get the book. What's a good website you would recommend?
I have a free video blog people seem to like. It's mentaltoughnesssblog.com.
That's easy enough. And I did find the book on Amazon, and it has been around like 7 or 8 years already. So I'm sure you have some readers who've already picked up the copy of the book. If not, I did find it on Amazon. I'm sure it's wherever books are sold. And it's high on the charts. It's 807. That may sound low, but that's pretty high, considering that Amazon has millions of books. 807. That's pretty good. Steve, thank you for being on the air with us today. 177 mental toughness secrets of the world class. Steve Siebold, thank you again for what you're doing and for what you just said. I think that's powerful and needs to be said.
Hey, thanks, Larry. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.
You are welcome. All right, let's take a little break. We'll be right back. This is WOCA.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
People who made their career plans public were less likely to do research or take advantage of opportunities compared to those who didn't share their plans. If you enjoy trying new restaurants or taking trips to places you've never been, you may want to try picking up a real instrument soon because you might have hidden musical talent. Eat that combination 1 hour before bed. Peanut butter on whole wheat toast, and thank you for the post.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
This is James Snyder, inviting you to join me each Sunday morning at 9:30 for Sunday Joy on 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, WOCA, The Source.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Chris Foster.
The world is witnessing the resurgence of a strong and